Let's take a look at our modern AI tools. Now, what's fun about this is it changes all the time. It seems like our modern AI tools for whatever it is you're doing are just constantly changing and updating. So, in this case, we're going to look at three out of many, many, many available tools. Let's start with the definition of a large language model. And this is important to note because we're talking about what we call artificial intelligence, but I'm not sure we still have a clear definition of intelligence. And it's not really clear the more you look into this how different the chat agents are from our own intelligence other than the scale. Our brains have the ability to process with billions of neurons and billions of connections, and our large language models have billions of what we call neurons, but we're still not at the same scale. So we're using this transformer-based system. What's a transformer, you ask? So the transformer was introduced back in 2017. There's a group that works at Google, and once we had this transformer, we went from the world of AI, which, as you know, there's been some sort of artificial intelligence studied since the 50s. We've been talking about it in computers and computer technology off and on. The creator of the Palm Pilot was a artificial intelligence researcher. He wrote a wonderful book called On Intelligence long ago before this version of AI came around. I've enjoyed that, but all of a sudden when ChatGPT came out, we could ask the computer questions and we could get answers back in English, in the English language or in various languages, and all of a sudden it felt magical and different. So with that NLP, with our neuro linguistic programming and availability, there's a whole world that we suddenly are in of this science fiction, talking to the computer, having the computer generate images and make plans. You can argue with it. It's amazing. So of all the tools out there, I've got three that we can look at in this presentation, just because these three have a slightly different focus. Even when they're using some of the same data in the back end, some of the same technology, we can look at the primary focus of each of ChatGPT, Perplexity, and DeepSeek. And using some simple analogies, we can get an idea, a feel for the focus of each tool. And that changes a little bit because ChatGPT just had a big update. So I'll bring that up also. So let's start with the big one. This is ChatGPT by OpenAI. Right now, I think when you talk about AI, any AI, you might just call it ChatGPT, whether you're talking about Grok or Venice or something or whatever it is. You might just mention, oh, that's a Coke when you're talking about soda, or that's Kleenex when you're talking about tissue. You might just say that's ChatGPT. So, what's it good at? It's good for a general purpose conversational AI. It's solid for that. And if you have a paid account, a business or professional account, when you pay, you might get some of the other searching the web features and agents and the deep thinking. Those might come along. But if we just look at the straight chat GPT, it's going to be better at understanding your context over a long chat. So it kind of remembers who you are as you're talking. It will bring up things. If you tell it about your past, like, oh, I got in a fight with my sister at a family reunion back in 2007, it might bring that up again if you ask it something else personal. Or if you ask a lot about cars, it might say, would you like me to tell you how this new hybrid Porsche compares to Mustang of whatever Mustang you like a Mustang Cobra or something? It might just start offering that. And ChatGPT feels like it knows a lot of things, even though we know large language models, LLMs, they don't know anything. Um, it feels like they know a lot, and it seems very helpful, and it gives you affirmation. So ChatGPT is where a lot of people just go to all day, every day. Then we have other we have other models available. Perplexity, very popular right now. It's we're thinking of Perplexity now as like instead of searching Google, you might go search Perplexity. Think of it more like the librarian, but it searches the whole web instantly. It can give you links to the various pages that you're looking for. Perplexity is hallucinating a little bit less, or it's making up things a little bit less than other AIs tend to do. And Perplexity is really good when you want to fact check, like what's the latest in this thing, or what's happening in this particular political event. Perplexity goes and checks news sites and news articles. It reads behind the paywalls. It gives you a summary, and then it gives you a link. Of course, if you want to read those links on the paywalls, you'll have to go and subscribe in order to get through them, but at least you'll know what you're looking for. And then we have a relatively new contender, and this is DeepSeek and their DeepThink R1. This is a chat and a chat bot from China, but they came up with some really innovative ways to make this chain of thought, which now Chat GPT 5 will give you a chain of thought, just like DeepThink. But I'm mentioning them because they were pioneering that. When DeepSeek announced this, there was such a panic because what this chain of thought was so different than what we had, the day before this announced, that there was a huge crash in AI markets, like billions of dollars were lost, and then we recovered, and now you can get this chain of thought all over the place. But let's look at the focus. Well, I just want to mention ChatGPT 5, which came out just, let's see, this is September 8th. So just recently, just a month ago. And it's kind of it's a one size fits all model. So they have, an operator. I guess when you type your chat, it analyzes your question, and then it says, well, is this a fast chat, or does this need deep thinking, or whatever? So it's kind of routing what you want. And the lines are blurring. Yes, it's true. So we'll stick with this for a minute. Let's look at some practical examples. You say, oh, I want to understand this medical study that I found online. So I always thought, personally, Sable always heard, before the internet and before we had ChatGPT, that children should avoid drinking coffee or having too much caffeine because it might stunt their growth. But now I can go and I can ask that specifically of the various chats, and they'll give me more detailed information on where I might be able to find that. Like, where did that come from? Why do people believe that? Perplexity will give me summaries and links. It will give me citations. ChatGPT will go into depth explaining where this came from and why it's partially a myth, and it might actually be okay to let a 16-year-old have some coffee. It might not cause them any health issues. So I find that helpful. Turns out, like many of you, I grew up thinking all kinds of things that I was told were true and correct, and they weren't. So here's another something to think about. So let's say that I want to go visit Spain. I mean, I would. I have an exchange student that lives over there, and I want to figure out the best time to visit based on the weather and the crowds. Well, I could use Deep Think, and Deep Think will take a long time. It might take 10, 15 minutes, break down the data, create step by step plans, and it will show me the thinking as it self corrects step by step by step all the way through before it provides the answers. But ChatGPT might say, oh, lots of people like this and like that, and you might want to try this. And, here's an itinerary that somebody posted on their website that you might enjoy. So these are, another way you might try using the two different tools. I personally think use a bunch of them. I did not include Gemini on here, but Gemini is wonderful. I use it all the time. It has a thinking mode and a chat mode, and I'll compare Perplexity and ChatGPT and Gemini and DeepSeek. I'll just run the same thing in all of them and see what I get. And sometimes I'm surprised at which gives me the great answer and which gives me a big pile of stinky stinks. I kind of expect the AIs to fall flat on some questions. So, ethical considerations. It's very important that we realize the AI is not perfect. In fact, I just want to emphasize the AI doesn't know anything. The AI is just taking the words that you typed in, putting them into a mathematical vector, comparing them to other mathematical vectors, and then returning the predicted words that match those vectors. So it doesn't actually know what the words are or what it's saying or whether it's lying to you. It has no idea. It's amazing that we get such good answers as we get, but let's be extra aware that whatever we get from the AI could just be a load of hoodoo. The health advice could be wrong. They could tell you to use a tool that doesn't exist. They could tell you to invest your money in something that is a complete scam. It's possible. Or you could find yourself really challenged with your beliefs and trying to redefine who you are based on a conversation with a chatbot computer. Both are totally viable. The other thing to think of is these chatbots were trained on human text, lots of the internet, Reddit, lots of Reddit in the early days. I don't know if anyone remembers, but when Google first launched their AI overviews, uh, that very first few days, a post went viral showing that Google was recommending it. I think they called it Bard at the time. Now it's called Gemini. It was recommending that you put Elmer's glue on your pizza to keep the cheese on it. And I was like, that's a really weird recommendation. Why would Google's AI tell us that? And somebody tracked it all the way down to a Reddit post that was done as a joke. And here you come years later, and on the homepage of Google, the Google's telling you to put Elmer's glue on your pizza to keep the cheese on, missing the fact that it was a joke and that you probably shouldn't do that. Okay, so we're gonna, after this video, we'll do a quick demo of each of those before we get into hands-on. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions to think about. You can answer this in the chat or just make a note of it. And then once we stop this YouTube video, we'll answer those. Just think to yourself, which of the tools, ChatGPT, Perplexity, or DeepSeek, might you use for a family reunion? How could you use one of these tools like ChatGPT, Perplexity, DeepSeek, maybe Gemini, even Grok if you're an X user? How could you use one of these large language model tools to help you learn a completely new hobby like Python programming or woodworking or folk dancing or something that you want to learn new that you don't know about? Think of some ways that you might be able to use that. And we'll talk about those after the video also. So while you're thinking about that, remember that each of these tools, they could be specialized assistants. You're going to pick the right one for the task. So let me stop this recording and we'll go play.